everybody. Thank you for joining us. I am so excited to sit here and speak with Bill. We have a lot to cover in 15 minutes, so I'm just going to jump into it. Bill, thank you for joining us, Chief Marketing Officer of Aerospike. And we are here to talk about the right now economy, which you're an expert on, I know. And the right now economy is really the result of advances in technology, of course, as well as disruptions. Disruptions in business models and also consumer expectations. But disruptions are not new,
Right.
and you know that. You've been in Silicon Valley for 30 years. So I wanted to ask about the past a little bit and just kind of ask you about the disruptions that you've seen in your previous careers in Silicon Valley, and just kind of talk about which ones stand out to you.
Yeah, sure. So I often say I'm a Silicon Valley survivor. It's not for the faint of heart, but the first disruption I'd point to is client-server computing. So what that really brought to all of us was a very powerful workstation or PC on our desks, which we all now enjoy, and now they're tablets and they're laptops. But client-server really allowed us to connect those to very powerful computers or servers in the back office, which fundamentally changed the productivity that we could realize by having a lot of compute power, applications right in front of us, tethered to services and data and networking that was in the back office. And that really was the precursor to the internet, because once you had that, you had the ability to have things like Google emerge. So I spent some time in that sort of change that all of us have benefited from. I also spent some time in the early days of video teleconferencing. So I imagine all of us have been on a Zoom call, maybe today even. Well, I was with a company that pioneered the technology that enabled us to do that. So that wasn't an easy thing to do, because you have to compress video and audio and send it across a network, and it has to show up at the other end, and it has to look natural. It has to look like our lips are moving as you hear that sound. And that disruption, I mean, from custom rooms that cost millions of dollars that only government could afford, to things you'd roll into a conference room, plug into a network, to now things that are just used in a browser. That fundamentally changed the way we work with people. We can work with you anywhere at any time around the world. I was part of the Enterprise 2.0 movement. That's really where we took social media and applied it to businesses in ways where you have blogs, wikis, communities. And if you think about Slack today, that is a beneficiary of those technologies, because now we're all on Slack and we have channels and communities, and it sort of changed the way we work. We don't work in a hierarchy and command and control environment anymore. We work organically and flexibly with teams. The productivity gains for businesses have been huge. And now I'm part of another disruption, which I'll get to, which is around how we are all going to benefit from the proliferation of data, but really the data that we are generating and consuming in real time. And it's a huge change, and I'll give you some examples.
Okay, great. And so let's talk about right now. Disruption is obviously happening everywhere right now. We have all experienced it in our everyday lives. Can you talk about, just define the right now economy as you would, as you see it?
I'll give you an example I think we can all relate to, and I call it the Amazon effect. So we've all experienced Amazon. And I would suggest that Amazon set the bar for how we expect to interact with any product or service online. If you think about it, you go to Amazon and you go search for something, and you hope to find it very quickly. And not only that, you hope to be presented with other alternatives that might be something you would consider. You want to see what it costs. You want to see what other alternatives would cost. And then when you decide that you're going to transact, you're going to want to make it easy to actually buy that. You want to pay for that quickly. You want to know that's secure. And then you want to know that that transaction went through, and you want to know what happens next. In the case of Amazon, you want to know that it's going to be delivered, and you want to know when. And if that changes, you want to be alerted that something changed along that whole process. Amazon has set the bar, I would suggest, for everything we experience now. And consumers now expect that. We all expect that kind of experience. We call it businesses have to be able to deliver against customers' expectations in the moments that matter. And that's the right now economy.
Are there other examples? Because Amazon, you know, we all experience that every day. I get a delivery every day from Amazon. What are some other companies that you would say are kind of the next wave or ones that people aren't as familiar with?
Well, I'll stick to some that you should be familiar with, and then I can maybe point to some that you may not. So PayPal is an example of a company that completely disrupted how you pay for things, right? You click a button, they have your credit card, your bank account, you get your item, boom. And that goes through a really complicated process to make sure that that is a secure transaction, that you are you and that's valid, because they don't want you to be hacked or me to be hacked. The whole way that payments are transacted now, and I don't care if it's Square or Stripe, there's a lot of them. All of those payment systems are an example of an experience that we now are getting accustomed to and we expect. There's examples in telecommunications. We have a customer, Airtel, that does a really good job of getting a 360-degree view of their customers. They have 650 million customers. They're in India, okay? They've had case studies written about this. What that allows them to do is that if you're looking at your account, you're in a retail store, you might be making a payment because they have a payment system, you might be in a branch, they contextualize their experience with you so that what they present to you, how they interact with you, is completely based upon you, your most recent activity, and everything about you. I'll come to something that is near and dear to our heart because we started off in the advertising technology business. But there's a company called The Trade Desk. The Trade Desk is probably the most premier advertising technology platforms in the world. And that's the platform that puts all those ads up there that we see in our browsers every day. And why we might complain about it, that's how we get our content for free, because we all pay for those ads. But they have been able to take it to Google. They are a credible competitor to Google AdWords. I mean, Google AdWords was the only game in town, and now you have The Trade Desk and others. So there's a lot of examples of companies that are taking advantages of data right now to be able to compete and win in the right now economy.
Let's talk about data, which is really what's fueling all these experiences. And can you talk a little bit about that, like just the sheer volume of data and where it comes from? You know, the Internet of Things is obviously the source for many of us.
So IDC did a study recently that measures how many devices there are in the world. 46 billion devices connected to the internet right now. That's more than 7 devices for every person on the planet. Okay, they're estimating that that's going to grow to 125 billion by 2030. Astronomical growth. Every one of those devices is creating data. It's generating data. Right now, there's 76 zettabytes of data stored somewhere around the planet. To give you an idea of what a zettabyte is, it's 1 trillion gigabytes. That's a lot of data. What's happening now is the volume and the velocity of that data is coming in and being generated so fast that it's hard for companies to, A, know what to do with it, how to store it, but really how to take advantage of it. And the examples I just presented with PayPal or Airtel or the Trade Desk are companies that have figured out how to take advantage of that data, leverage that data as it comes into their organizations to be able to deliver the experiences that we all expect. And we like to say businesses want to be won or lost in microseconds because that's how fast you have to be able to deal with the data that's coming to your business if you want to be able to compete and win. Mm-hmm. So that's why data is important, but that's why real-time data is sort of becoming the next thing.
When we all hear the phrase digital transformation often, and we know that that's what companies need to do to take advantage of this data, and they spend lots of money to do that, and lots of companies fail at it.
Yeah.
What causes the failure, and what are the keys to succeeding?
Yeah,
Big question.
I think we've all read the articles on digital transformation, and it's kind of a buzzword. It's been around for a while. I think, and we know there's a lot of case studies around failed digital transformation. I think part of the challenges that the early projects suffered was maybe biting off more than they could chew, and spending a lot of money to do that. And so there was a lot of money spent without a lot of benefits. We have the customers I just talked about. We have others have actually driven a lot of very successful transformations. And what the winners seem to do is, first of all, they recognize that the definition of disruption is a fundamentally new business process. It's a new business model, a new business process. It's not incremental. And when they think about what it takes to do that, we often characterize it as think big, start small, scale fast. You want to think big because you want to know where you're going, but if you bite off more than you can chew, that's when you get into trouble. So our successful customers that have driven these projects start relatively small in one area of the business and learn what works, what doesn't work, and then they expand from there. But one of the things that they also think through is if they think big at the beginning of the project, they think about the underlying infrastructure they need to get to the to-be state, the desired state. So they think about scale. They think about how big can this go? If I were to do this across many projects, what would that look like? We often say it's good to think about future-proofing your architecture up front, because some of the companies that didn't think that way end up having to re-platform at some point in time, and that's expensive and that's disruptive. So we often say, think about future-proofing your architecture up front, so that as you scale and add more data, 10 terabytes today could be 30 terabytes in 18 months. Make sure that you think about scale at the beginning, even if you start small. Lastly, it's expensive. Okay, it's expensive. Let's not kid ourselves. It's not cheap to do this. However, there's technologies today, we happen to have one of them, that allows people to do these transformations affordably by not having to have as big a server footprint, by not having to have as many machines behind it. So new technologies are there that allow people to do it at less cost, and in some cases to actually save money over their current infrastructure. So there are ways to skin the cat, and that's kind of what our experience has been.
Great. I'm scanning past so many other questions for you, but I want to get to the last one, and then we're going to show a video for you. Where do you think real-time data will take businesses in the next 10 years, and what can they look forward to?
Well, self-driving cars are real. I've actually talked to some pretty smart engineers at one of the biggest automotive companies in the world. The technology's tough. Requires a lot of data. If you think about a car going down the street, is that a cat? Is that a person? Is that a stop sign? And trying to make instant decisions, that's hard. But they're coming because people are working on them, and I've seen them. AI and ML is a cornerstone to all of this. It's real. We're going to start to see AI and ML models being packaged and sold as packages, so companies don't have to create them. They just buy them off the shelf. It's happening today. It's going to happen. And the Internet of Things, it's here. There are sensors everywhere. And it's just a matter of what can we do with all the data that's generated from the Internet of Things.
Wonderful. Bill, thank you so much for your
insights.
Thank you,
Stacy.
And if anyone is not sure what Aerospike does, we are about to show a video that we at the Wall Street Journal Custom Content worked with Aerospike on. And we're going to exit so you can see the screen better. So thank you.
Thank you.
Right now, the economy is transforming. Your competitors are adapting, and your customers are demanding more. Right now, petabytes of data are streaming around the globe with the power to transform your business. More than ever, your business needs a data architecture that can thrive in the right now economy. That means digital payments approved in microseconds, with fraud detection improving by 300%. It means ad tech platforms receiving 15% more bidding opportunities. E-commerce platforms increasing cart size by 30%. And global brokerages expanding margin lending to 14 million more customers. It means increased market share, higher customer retention rates, and millions of dollars in revenue a day. Without the power of Aerospike's real-time data platform, you're losing this opportunity. Right now is the time to harness the power of real-time data. Right now is the time for Aerospike.